Well, I don't know if you've ever noticed that spring flowers seem to come in waves. Of course, we start off with the forsythia, the daffodils, crocus, snowdrops, and then there's a little lull, and then we get those white flowering trees you see out in the woods, the shablows, the serviceberries, then we get the apples, the wild apples, then we have the crab apples, and of course, all over the place are the flowering pears. Then a little lull, and then we get the third wave. Now that typically is made up of azaleas and rhododendrons. Now today what I want to do is actually give you some alternatives so you can have a little bit of variety in this amazing third wave, because by then the temperatures are really nice. So you'll get out and enjoy your garden much more if you have a bit more variety. Well, the first group of shrubs I want to talk about are the viburnum. Now just bear in mind there are hundreds of varieties. Some are native, some like these have flowered earlier. They have the snowball type flower that are incredibly fragrant. Some are particularly good because they have this like lustrous leaf that doesn't get insect attacks. And this is a Burkwood one, again an early flowering. If you want a big blocking plant, then some of these leatherleaf viburnums are very, very useful. And as I said, many of them are native. This is a native one. This is an arrowwood viburnum, just about to flower, and it has most beautiful blueberries later in the fall. Can supply animals with them, called arrowwood because it took me ages to work this out. Arrowwood. The stems, after you've cut them back, can make a very straight, not quite long enough for a dangerous arrow, and it maybe needs to stiffen up a bit. But that's used by the Indians. Arrowwood viburnum, great for blocking out areas. The real viburnum I want to talk about that's absolutely at its peak now is the double file viburnum. Well, this is Viburnum tomentosum Shasta. And to give you an idea of how big it is, I'm down below, look at that. Absolutely spectacular. Now, what's nice about these is not just the flowering, is that they produce a fruit that's quite edible, and the leaf will go a lovely, rich, ruby burgundy color in the fall. But not a small plant. Often these are trimmed too much and you don't get that lateral effect. Now there is a Shoshone variety that's a little bit smaller. We have that planted in our landscape. And believe it or not, there is one that will flower all summer long. It's called Summer Snowflake. Again, a reasonably big shrub, if not small tree, but it flowers heavily, then it flowers on and off during the spring. So there you go. An absolutely amazingly attractive landscape plant for your yard. The double file viburnums, you really can't go wrong. That's another double file viburnum. It's a variety called Shoshone. It's about half the height of the big one. Now the other species I want to talk about are the dogwood. So not the American dogwood. In my left hand there is an American dogwood, and if you look at the petal, let me just grab, right at the end of it there's a little indentation I should say, whereas the Kousa dogwoods tend not to have that. They tend to have a bit of a spike, but they flower later. The American dogwoods have finished flowering. They're not as easy to grow as you'd like. These Kousa ones have been crossed with the American ones, produced all kinds of varieties. Now I love the big glorious white ones, but there are pinks out there as well. The plant itself flowers about now, it's in the third wave. It also produces a strawberry-like fruit right at the center there. So it becomes quite appealing later on. And if you look at the bark of the Kousa dogwood, there really is an interesting exfoliating effect. It doesn't quite have the shape, that lateral shape of American dogwood, but I think because it grows so well, and you'll be risk putting American dogwoods in unless you have perfect growing conditions. So the Kousa dogwood, it comes in larger shapes like this or smaller ones. Some, like Venus, have these huge white handkerchief-like flowers. So there's a great deal of choice for them all, and some of them will flower even further into the summer. So there you go, the Kousa dogwood, a very useful addition to your landscape, and what a beautiful, attractive effect it has. Easy to grow, disease resistant, and nice all year round. So there you go, some absolutely brilliant small trees, large shrubs to add to your rhododendrons and azaleas. There are of course different waves coming up, and this one is just at the end of a third wave. This is an American fringe tree, Chiananthus, wonderfully fragrant. These flowers become white and drape right down. On my right is a snowbound spirea, and as you can see the flower buds are pretty tight, so we've got a few weeks to wait for them to come into flower. Now I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't introduce you to some of the wonderful perennials that flower during this third wave, so sit back and enjoy this combination.